Okay, and now is episode 11 of Eat, Drink, Be Scary, where we talk about kind of mysterious, paranormal, whatever, whatnot.
Strange situations.
We strangely talk about stuff.
Yeah, strangely, we talk about things, and we talk about them strangely.
And then we eat and drink as we do it. This week we're drinking
Sangria
that Tanya made. Tanya, what's in it?
It's red wine, orange juice, cherry juice, peaches, strawberries, blackberries, cantaloupe, and
That sounds amazing.
that's
It is.
about
It's springtime
So it's
delight.
kind of like a drink and a meal.
So I'll tell you one of the reasons why we're doing this is my my ex-wife gave me a box of really crappy
Franzia.
box wine. And it's just called like red, I think, or red blend or something. It's terrible. It has a bit of a. It tastes like you just were trying to suck gas out of a car, siphon gas out. That has that aftertaste, like you got it all over your face. It burns a little.
Why did she give you a box of shitty wine?
She was going on a cruise, and she's like, "Hey, you should drink this wine." She also gave me some hummus. The hummus
Wine
was
and
good.
hummus.
The hummus was good. The hummus was really good. I ate the hummus. Anyway, so Tanya's like, well, I can salvage this, and her being the fancy bartender.
Oh, wonderful.
But with that, so I should say Tanya, who's one of... Thanks, Tanya. You're one of our hosts here.
Yes.
Along with myself, Bill, and Ryan and Tom. Say hi, guys.
Hello, guys.
And today we're going to be talking about why we drink our sangria, which is really good. I'm really happy with it. We're going to talk about something... on one of the first episodes we ever did, we talked about Dyatlov Pass. I don't remember which one it was. Which episode. I could look it up. That's too much work.
It's one of the other ones.
One of the first 10, definitely.
And it was definitely the first 10. And with that, we ended up briefly. Somebody reached out to us and they said, "Hey, you guys should talk about the American one." And that's it. That's the American Dyatlov Pass, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
And let's give a little backstory. So
It was episode 5.
Oh, thanks. Good job. And so one of the things that we kind of discussed before we even started is there a name to this? And really all my research shows that it's the American Dyatlov Pass. Or the Boys of Yuba City, the Yuba City...
just the missing...
But or some people say the Gary Mathis mystery, because... Which we'll go into further. We won't talk about that now. But let's get the backstory a little bit. And then what we think might have happened. 5 young gentlemen.
In 1978.
That's the crazy part to me. That recently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's the crazy part.
That recently was in 1978.
We're not talking like Dyatlov Pass time, where it's hard to go back and say, what happened to these guys.
Well, you would also think that's also a time where investigation and police work has started to pick up with forensics and,
Right.
basic investigation techniques were pretty spot on for the most part.
Well, a lot of things
Back
in
then,
that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by that, things were being solved pretty regularly. That's what I was saying. I mean, it's...
Right. So, I don't know. Let's just talk about it, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, so February 24th, 1978. And it was 5 friends. And but one of the most important things about these 5 friends is they were kind of mentally disabled a little bit. And we can go a little further into each one. But they were basketball fans. Not only were they basketball fans, but they actually played for the Special Olympics. And the following day that this happened, they were actually supposed to play in a tournament that if they won, they were going to go to California and get to go to Disneyland. That was like the prize. I don't know if they played basketball there or not when they went. But they were going to go north to Chico. By the way, if you guys have ever been to Chico, I don't know if it was when I was going to school. That place was a party college. I don't know if it still is then. I wasn't going to. It wasn't 78.
Home of the Chico Steaks, everybody. Chico Steaks.
I think it was like 50 miles away. But only one of them had a car. And it was, I'm not going to say, it was the 5 people in this is Jack Hewitt. It's William Sterling, Jack Madraga. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Theodore Wyer, and then Gary Mathis. These are the 5 friends.
And what's really interesting, these guys were pretty I mean, they're 24 to 32.
Yeah.
Right? So they were also pretty... If they're on a basketball team, they're probably fairly athletic, right?
Able-bodied.
Able-bodied men, yeah. So, I mean, I know that that's a little bit younger than us, but it's one of those things that typically those ages are pretty vital people.
But, they all, like I said, they were all mentally disabled in one aspect or another.
Okay.
And they, believe they all lived at home. If not all, 4 of them did. Lived at home. There were 2 that were in the military at one time. And Mathis was actually discharged, and I believe he was the one that had schizophrenia, and I'm going to have to research this as we talk. But there were 2 in the military. One was not diagnosed anything. He was just his IQ was so low. That was kind of his thing.
Well, it says here, too, that Madruga, as well as Matthias, served in the Army.
Okay. Right. So, yeah, that's what I was saying. There was 2 that were in the military.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided prior to going to their basketball game, they went up to Chico to watch a basketball game, and they took Madruga's car, and it was like a 1969
Mercury Montego.
Mercury Montego, which he
Montego.
was very proud of. It was a very nice car, apparently. The 5 of them get up there, and they drive up north. They know they made it to the basketball game.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, they're never seen again.
Well, they were seen alive at a gas station.
You got a bunch of junk food, like candy bars.
Well, again, we're getting ahead of ourselves because there's also been a bit of a controversy to that. Because their parents said that they were not given enough money to buy anything. They were given just enough money to do what they needed to do. And they would have had no money whatsoever to buy anything.
But I thought, like, later on they said they found that stuff in the car. Like, that they had found a half-eaten candy bar, the junk food remnants.
Well, from what I'm reading, it says that there was a 45-minute drive when they had left from Chico to Yuba City. It should have been 45 miles. And they stopped at this gas station to get a bunch of, basically, snacks. And
Very specific. People, anything you ever read on that, they get very specific. They're like, they bought a Snicker.
This one says Hostess pies.
A quart and a half of milk. Yeah, they like very specific, where people actually try and read into what they bought. It's very interesting. They bought a quart and a half of milk.
Why?
I don't know.
Because it taps into what we were talking about last week, where you have to have something that's really relatable about a story when you have a couple of things that are kind of unbelievable. So that you have to make something super specific so that's easy for somebody to relate to. So if you go, I went to the convenience store and they were buying a gallon of milk, because who doesn't do that? And everybody goes, okay, I picture exactly where they are now.
Well, if I had looked in your car, Tom, and I'm like, he has a half-eaten Snickers bar.
I eat a whole Snickers bar.
He had taken 4 drinks out of a Sprite. Obviously, he's going to go hang himself later. I mean,
actually, if somebody only eats half a candy bar and puts the rest away, they're probably a serial killer, really. Like,
who does that? That's what I was just saying.
I'm pretty full on this payday. I think I'll just put the rest away and save it later. No, you're a serial killer. Sorry.
Yeah. Or they're sad with Kit Kat with no friends to share it with.
I'm allergic to chocolate, so shut up. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
It's a sore subject.
Okay, so before we go into from A to B, B being they died, we should just go to, and not talk about the stuff in the middle. Let's just kind of talk about what happened and what they know that happened. And then we'll tell the story that led up to that. So anyway, they go, it's wintertime. Clearly it's February.
Well, hold on. In California in February, what's the temperature?
Well, it was in Northern California, so there was snow.
Okay.
There was snow where they had driven to, and because they're, again, we're getting into the story a little bit, but they were frostbitten. They died in the snow, like they froze to death. That's why that whole Dyatlov Pass thing.
Okay.
Nobody's going to say, like, they went to the beach and they found them. It's like Dyatlov Pass, but really nice.
Tahitian Dyatlov Pass.
The weather was great and they found them. No, they were like froze to death.
Well, see, I've been to like 2 places in California, so I couldn't.
Right.
San Jose and San Francisco.
Okay, well, this is like 40, 50 miles, 100 miles north of San Francisco. It's like 50 miles north of Sacramento.
Okay.
Yuba City, there's not a whole lot. It's kind of just like a little bit before you kind of the gateway to like, you go a little north, there's Klamath and Shasta and all those forests.
It's the gateway to more California.
It's kind of the north end of the Central Valley.
Oh,
And then
okay.
you start going into the I don't know, foothills. I don't know the best way to describe it. I'm not from there. I'm from southern.
Okay. Makes sense.
So they turn up missing. They don't come home. They do a little search for them. They find their car. They find their car like 50 miles away. I don't have to. Again, I'm speaking because I think I read that, but I'll have to read it again.
In the opposite direction.
Opposite
where they're supposed to-
direction.
yeah,
They were
right.
not supposed to be. Where they found the car was not where it was supposed to be. But it also had gas in it. When one of the windows cracked, and they were gone. They don't know what happened to them.
Yeah, it says that there's no damage to the car. One of the windows was down,
Operational.
and that the car was fine, and there was a quarter tank of gas in it.
Yeah, they could have made it. They could have made it, no problem. So they search and they search, and the weather gets so bad they actually have to stop because two of these search party members almost died. So they had to call it. So from there, they kind of give up. Not really. They have to wait for spring. Spring comes. Hey, butterflies come out. There were some guys on some motorcycles, and they find this cabin. And the cabin is one of the cabins that they use, like the rangers use, but they only use them certain times of the year. But they're pretty stocked up. And apparently, the bikers say, "Hey, or as we got closer to this thing, it just reeked. It just smelled really, really bad." They go inside and they find the body of I'm going to say his name wrong again. Weir. Ted Weir. Theodore Weir. They find him. They find his body. And anyway, so they do the investigation. They find out he died in this cabin. He froze to death and starvation. Combination. I don't know.
But it also said that he was very carefully tucked under 8 sheets.
Yeah,
So he didn't die
From
alone.
head to toe. So, he
he was also
dead.
surrounded by food and a working propane tank.
Yeah, and enough fire to keep that. They could have lit a fire.
Again, getting ahead of themselves, right? Because after that, they found 2 other people.
Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but we want to say they find a dead body there. He died, and his feet were badly frostbitten,
right?
and he died of starvation. So that's what happened. He died. He was very, very cold, and he had 8 sheets over him. So somebody was in the room with him when he died.
In the building, right?
And they said that he was 5'11", 200 pounds, and that he had lost 80 pounds.
And he was in. And they said it didn't look like he had left the bed much for the 8 to 12 weeks that they assumed he was.
How? I mean, was there?
I think
bodily-
bed sores and things like that. They pretty much assumed that for a while he didn't leave the bed. That he was there
Interesting.
for a while.
So I wonder if he just saw something so horrific that he just kind of shut down and didn't care to see all the food and stuff that was in there, or
Well, but he couldn't have been by himself. Somebody was in there with him. Why he died of starvation and loses 80 pounds in 8 to 12 weeks.
Yeah, you glossed over that
Like
part.
Jenny
'Cause
Craig.
they found him, and then they surmised that he had been alive and waiting there 8 to 12 weeks, right? And just hadn't touched any of this stuff around him.
No, but he didn't die alone because the sheets were over him. Somebody covered him up and tucked him in after he died.
well, that usually means someone cared about him.
Maybe he's just really
there
damn
were
cold.
some cans of food that were opened.
Yeah, they did eat some.
They did find some. So someone was eating something, and they had been opened with a small military issue.
P-38.
Yeah,
That's what those little can
So-
openers are called.
Did they find the P-38?
They could tell that that's what opened
Well,
the
I know,
cans.
but I'm saying if they didn't find the knife, then someone took it with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
I don't know.
Because if he's dead and not using the P-38, then obviously it should still be there. Unless it was not his and someone took it with them.
But his shoes were missing, but one of the other guy's shoes were there, kind of in his place. So one
Which
of the
guy,
guys,
do you know?
one of
Mm-hmm. The guy, Matthias.
The one that was missing?
Yes. It's his shoes that are there, and the other guys that are missing.
So do you think that this Gary guy was there, took care of him, tucked him in, and then switched shoes because his other shoes were better or something, and then left?
Well, and that's the thing, right? They found this one guy, and they find a couple other guys not far from him, but I think they just pretty much perished in the weather.
So
outside.
so we're talking about the next.
Right.
So like 10 miles away, they find
10 miles?
Yeah. 10 miles away from the cabin.
Yeah, these guys all walked away. Like, that's 20 miles. The cabin's
They
almost
find
20 miles, right?
Madruga and Sterling. They find the bodies of Madruga and Sterling, and they had been like their bodies were partially eaten. So they found those were the first two bodies they found.
Well, okay. So I read real quick. We talked about them finding the car someplace else. They found the car on a dirt road outside of Oroville, which was 26 miles away from Chico and 36 miles away from Yuba City.
So, and it was like 20 miles away from the cabin. The car was like 20 miles away.
Right, so that he had already hiked to get to the cabin 20 miles or so.
Yeah, this is in Plumas National Forest, excuse me. Completely different direction from where they were supposed to be going.
Right. Now there was a discussion when they talk about Gary Mathis. Gary Mathis said that they had friends. He had friends in another city, and they assumed one of the assumptions was that Gary convinced them to drive there, but it was really easy to miss the turn, and they may have just kept going up that road, figured out they went the wrong way and stopped. And that is one of the things when they asked, and we're going to get ahead of ourselves about the whole Gary Mathis thing. But Gary Mathis was the one who was in the military, and then who had recently got out. I believe he was 30. I think he was the oldest. Gary Mathis was 30, and he was the oldest.
And the owner of the car, right?
No. Madruga was the. Okay, so no. Going back to this, so they already find. They find the first body. They assume they find that he's lived in this cabin for at least 8 to 12 weeks.
Yeah, that's 3 months. That's so crazy.
He has died of starvation in a cabin that was full of food. By the way, there was enough food, frozen food, like Mexican food and fruit cocktail in these little like dehydrated ones, to last all of them several years. They said they could have eaten for several years, eaten all that food. So let's just say all 5 of these guys were in this cabin. They would have been okay. 2 of them had military experience. They should have been okay. There was a propane tank. They could have turned on the propane tank and started a fire.
Here's another interesting thing. Next to Wyherd's body in the trailer, there's a watch that allegedly didn't belong to any of the 5 men.
It was missing the face, yeah. And it was... Wait, was he wearing it, or was it on
It was
him?
next to his body, is what it says.
And that actually could have just been left there by another ranger or something.
Mm-hmm.
They could have just found it in the cabin. I wouldn't put a lot of... they do talk about that, and I wouldn't put a lot of effort into trying to figure out that mystery. But... So let's just say all 5 of them made it to the cabin. And then... First guy dies. But you're there 8 to 12 weeks. Somebody was there eating food. But he lies in bed where they could have lit a fire or turned the propane tank on and started a fire. He gets frostbite on his feet and dies of starvation in bed. They say that most likely he, towards the end, did not leave the bed. He just stayed in that bed.
I can see that going the other way, though. I mean, like, so it's 20 miles away from the car. And if you're walking and if you've got wet feet, you develop frostbite if it were, like, sustained cold. And if they hurt that bad, you maybe not want to get on them at all. Or, like, maybe it really hurts to get on your feet. So you're just going to lay there. And if you have other people kind of helping you live and sustain you, you can do that. Because even after that, once they thaw and you have dead tissue on your feet, man, that's bad news. And you're not going to want to get on them. So, I mean, maybe that's why he just didn't get up again.
I don't know, but to die of starvation?
Yeah, I mean, maybe somebody would have just left him. Right?
And I could be wrong. Wouldn't you die of dehydration long before?
Dehydration before starvation, yeah.
So where was he getting water? I guess they didn't talk about that. Was somebody giving him water?
I don't know, because it would still be freezing inside of that cabin, right? Because if they weren't heating it in any way, it would be cold in there. So how would you get the water? You couldn't thaw ice.
I don't know.
You know, it's really weird. I was looking at this Gary Matthias guy, and it was like, he looks really familiar. He looks like the damn Zodiac killer.
He does a little bit.
Well, he does look like the Zodiac killer. Weird.
And that's the right time frame.
We just solved a mystery.
We did. We just did it. Okay, so and that was so Ted Weir. Is Weir? Am I saying
Hey, it's
that?
Weir. Where?
Weir. So anyway, they find his body. They search around, and then 10 miles away, they find Madruga, who owned the car, and Sterling. And their bodies are pretty decomposed. But they could tell, they're all on different sides of a road. So they were walking down a road. They died in the same spot, but on different sides of the road.
That's really random.
And I don't know if that's... I mean, they say they most likely died of hypothermia. But in the same spot, like, hey, listen, I'm going to die. Not on my side of the road, you go to your side of the road and die. Fine.
We're not walking together anymore.
So, alright, so then we go a little further. And I'm trying to think, down the road... Okay, so there's the last guy, Hewitt, that they're trying to find. Hewitt and Mathis. So these two guys are still missing.
Mm-hmm.
The father of Hewitt is in the search party and finds the backbone of his son. The body has been lying face up, decomposed, clenching. The reason they knew it was him, he was clenching onto his watch. Like his watch that he had was clenching into his hand. And they find his body looking up, staring up. Clearly they assume he died of hypothermia. And
I thought that was one of the other guys that died on the side of the road.
Maybe I have to research again. They said that the last guy...
the son, when he found his son, he always wear a very certain type of Levi's and a very certain brand of shoes.
Oh, it could have been that way. Maybe I'm getting to remember. That is true. They found it from the shoes. That is true. Okay, so yes. So then the dad finds the poor guy's on a... Can you imagine finding like the... And the skull was like... They said the bones were scattered like within a 50-foot area.
Oh, yeah, which is wild animals from laying out there that long. Which could be why one of them was across the street. I mean, if they died on the same side, maybe a bear or something drug it across the street.
Yeah.
Feasted on it for a while.
Okay, so... hey, Ryan, every time you move that mic and put it on your chest and lay it around, I just hear everything.
I'm sorry. I'm going back and forth between Gary Mathias and the Zodiac Killer.
No, he showed me a couple times. They're really...
It's really close.
We'll put it up on it.
All right, we'll do that. We'll compare them. We'll do a little Photoshop and put them all together. All right. So now, and let's see why this really matters, because we're going to talk about Gary. Well, first of all, so they find Hewitt. They find 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're like, well, there's one body left, and that's Gary Mathis, and they never find him. They never find his body. Ever. Never, ever. They searched forever. They've looked many, many times. It's never turned up. So now you have this mystery of these 5 mentally handicapped people to go for a basketball game. And
never come back.
And they never come back. They die. So now we can go a little bit back from the A to B and what happens from that. And there's a couple different versions of this story. Now, first of all, we talk about the whole buying the grocery thing. A store owner claims they came to the convenience store, specifically bought a Snicker, a quart of milk, whatever else they bought. I don't know what else they bought. And the parents said, well, that doesn't make any sense. They didn't have any money. And then we'll talk about the other guy. And I'm trying to remember his name. I'm going to find it. And for a second, we'll talk about it. But it's the guy that saw them in his own
Cone,
car.
or I think...
Shone.
Okay, so Shone for a second. We'll talk about him. Shone was a gentleman that was driving up there to see if the following day he could take his family camping there. And this whole story just seems really weird to me. Well, by the way, he has 2 different versions of this story, which is also really odd. He's taking his car up the road, and he gets stuck. Like, he gets his car legitimately stuck. Prior to that, he had seen their car.
Yeah, Joseph
He
Shones.
passed it on the way, right?
Yeah, he passed it. He saw their car. But it's abandoned on the side of the car. There's nobody in it. Mm-hmm. He doesn't think much of it. He just drives by it. As he waits... as he tries to get his car unstuck, he has a heart attack. Guy's like, I think he's 55. Has a heart attack. He lies in his car not knowing what to do. In full panic mode. Later that night, as it gets dark, he sees 2 headlights come up. One being a car and one being a truck. Tries to flag them down. They ignore him. They just keep going. Who does that? What a bunch of jerks.
Right.
Then again, he sees some headlights and some people walking in front of it. And apparently it was 5 guys, a woman, and a baby. they ignore him. In fact, the headlights, when he tries to flag them down, they turn the headlights off. And the last one being, he just saw some people with flashlights, and when he calls for them, they turn the flashlights off and go the opposite direction.
Well, he also said that he heard a whistling sound and saw the woman walking, holding a baby.
But there was whistling, but also there was 5 guys.
Right, exactly. That's very strange.
Like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs whistling?
Did anyone... Wow, you went there.
I did.
It could have been.
So,
it could have been. I think this is the beginning of...
Yeah, like a very demented Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
They were... Listen, tell me Dopey didn't have some mental issues going on, right? Put Dopey in that cabin, he would have died. He wouldn't have eaten. He would have just starved to death. And they had long beards, except for Dopey didn't.
Mm-hmm.
He must have been related to Tom, but he couldn't grow a beard.
Yeah. It's sad,
okay,
really.
So, did anyone try to identify the woman? Or the baby?
Yeah, what's the thing? Because
No.
all these accounts say woman and a baby and these guys. So where's this woman, random woman and baby?
Well, so he sees all these people. This is just him reporting, hey, I just
hallucinating after a heart attack.
And then he had to walk 8 miles back to a lodge, but when he walked back, he walked by their car. He saw their car. But of course, he told them, because they found his car too. They said, oh, look, here's the car. Window was cracked. Gas tank has a quarter tank of gas in it. They would have been fine. The car wasn't stuck. There's no reason they should have left the car. Okay, so then there was another report. There was another report about a red truck driving around that area with 5 men in the back.
Okay.
I hadn't heard of that report. Where's that? So they're just driving around the area? Like they had picked these guys up in the back of their truck?
I don't know. That was just a report.
Hitchhikers.
They don't know. There's something here that says... let me read this one here. Here we go. I'm going a little further and see if I can find the information on the truck. I will. This is... I did... they found... one of the things I forgot to say is the... between... the first 2 that were found, Sterling and Madruga, they had dropped their flashlights, and they had blankets on them and dropped them in their, like, as they were walking. They said most likely somebody could have dropped them there beforehand, but it didn't make any sense. Flashlights and their blankets. They had blankets.
And they just, as they were walking with them, shed them. Essentially.
Yeah. Like, I'm too hot. How about you? Well, I'm too hot. Maybe they're showing up.
Well, we talked about that during the Dyatlov Pass episode, right? Where you have that, while you're freezing to death, your brain thinks that you're
That's
warm.
true.
So maybe you just...
You start taking your clothes off.
Right.
Well, and all the flashlights were turned off so that they weren't using them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm assuming it was daylight, but they were preparing for night.
I don't know. That's random. And why would you stay in somewhere for 8 to 12 weeks and never touch anything around you? I mean, like, courtesy is one thing, but starvation is completely different.
Right. You would think that your instinct to survive would kick in and you'd be like...
People have eaten people in less time than that.
Well, right. They would just be like, you know what? I'm going to eat this MRE. I can get them a new one later.
Okay, so I found the piece I was going to talk about the red truck. So there's a town called Brownsville. It's about 30 miles outside 30 miles away from where they found the car. And there was a convenience store. They said that a red truck pulled up, and this woman identified Hewitt and Sterling, that they had used a phone, and then the whole crew drove off. And the store owner said that the 2 men had come into the store and they bought burritos and soft drinks. Which, again, they're saying, well, that's not true. They didn't have any money. There's nobody going to have any money to do that. But they also said Hewitt and Sterling would never have used a phone. They didn't have the mental ability, or the desire to use a phone. They were too scared. So they said that could have been that. I think that was with the red pickup truck, and how that came to be.
That makes sense. So, I mean, it was just kind of an eyewitness account, and somebody had said, yeah, those are the guys I saw. And it was the right amount of people, but it could have really been anything at that point. I mean, they just came in after this long and bought a couple burritos.
The thing that fascinates me, the number one thing that fascinates me about this whole story, Were they all in the cabin? Did they just watch their friend die of starvation? Was he just right there? Was he being so stubborn that he just didn't want to eat? Did somebody watch somebody? Did he go in that cabin and they didn't know he was? They lost him, and then they were out in the woods for 8 to 12 weeks, and then they go in the cabin and they find him dead. And they put 8 sheets over him and tuck him in. Why did they leave the cabin, and why were they so far apart from each other? Did two die, and then did Madruga and Sterling die, and then Hewitt go, well, I'm just going to keep going, and then did he die? Did he leave first? I mean, none of that makes sense. And of course, where's Mathis?
Well, another thing too, if they were all in the cabin and their friend died, I mean, I would just think he's dead. Let's just set him outside. Well, I mean, here's why. If you're in a room that's warmer, he'll start to decompose quicker.
Well, they're not, but they were cold. They were. It wasn't a warm room.
But
nobody lit fire.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the whole house is so cold. I don't know, just because it's, I don't know, Neanderthals were out there dead and then buried them. I mean, and they barely had any cognition, just significance, really.
Did they overreact and panic? You know, sometimes you panic and you make bad decisions. But do you make bad decisions for 8 to 12 weeks?
Well, with no food, absolutely. I think so. I mean, like, just in my mind...
Hold on. How long can you live without eating or drinking anything? It's not that long.
And also, by the way, how do you find a cabin? How do you find a cabin 20 miles away?
I actually have some information about that.
Oh, here we go.
So they think that the way that they actually got to that cabin is that the the Forest Service, like days prior, had been driving through that area and had left tracks in the snow leading to the trailer that was out there. So they think that the guys saw fairly fresh tracks, thinking there's help in this direction in this 4 to 6 feet of snow, and then that is how they got there. And part of the theory is that along the way, the two that died on the either side of the road kind of died there as they were making their way there, and then the other 3 remaining made it into the trailer. So they don't think all 5 of them, well, whoever they is, according to Wikipedia, they don't think all 5 of them made it to the trailer. They think only 3 of them did.
That kind of makes sense, I guess. If 2 of them died before they ever got there, and then they get there and the other one's got severe frostbite and they have to look after him, and the one ends up almost dying, or say it gets warm and they think, let's get out of here and try and find help, and by the time they get back, that guy's passed away. They wrap him up, and the 2 guys, Matthias and the other guy, go out for one last let's get the hell out of here, and the other guy ends up dying, or maybe they fight, or who knows after that point, because it is proven that Matthias had schizophrenia and hadn't had a bad episode. He was taking medication for it, hadn't had an episode in a while. But
did he have his medication then?
But yeah, it's been this long, so maybe he had something go on. So maybe it could have been foul play at that point, or if somebody else died. And Matthias is the only guy who has never been found. I think that the summation is that he's just been eaten, right? It's been so long that his body's decomposed, but he could legitimately just be missing and have skipped town, and now it's a Zodiac killer, like Ryan said.
Yeah. Because here's the thing. You're in an area that has shelter, food, water, a way to make heat. It would be a horrible thing to do just to leave that area.
Why would you even try to signal anybody? I mean, a fire for signal.
Well, here's another thing, too, though. If it's a forest station, they're going to be coming back to it. And if you have enough food, they said they had plenty of food to keep them alive. I mean...
People don't think
it says
straight.
on here, one of the theories why they didn't eat is that because it was locked up, they knew that it was private property, and that they feared getting arrested.
Right, like what? That's what I was saying.
And
I mean, get it, but
basing it off of depending on the person's
mental
mentality and mental
capacity,
capacity, that's scarier than dying.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds fishy to me. It sounds like someone told him, you better not eat that. You could die. You could get...
Yeah, unless that was out
trouble.
there. I mean, because, like I said, starvation, or Ryan says, starvation does weird things to people. And people have, I mean, like the Donner Party, look up how many days that was going on before they started looking at everybody else and saying, look, you look like bacon.
Yeah, I would usually wait about 12 hours of being hungry before I would even think about eating my roommate's food because I knew
Yeah.
I'd be in trouble when I was.
I'm so glad you said roommate's food.
My roommate.
I thought you were just going to be like, I'd wait at least
But
12 hours before I eat my roommate.
But 12 hours, I didn't care. 12 hours, like, they're going to kill me, but I'm going to eat
I'm hangry.
all their beans. Yeah, I would do that. I didn't care. So if you're just sitting there, you're 4 days in, and you see an unlocked locker full of food, which, by the way, they did eat some.
Screw 4
They did
days,
some.
8 weeks in. Eight
But
weeks.
they did eat some,
They ate
so they
some.
might have ate just enough to
Just
sustain.
enough for them to die.
Yeah.
To die pleasantly. Slower. I'm going to prolong this.
Well,
Horrible.
even if there's 3 guys in there, you open up one can, you're like, okay, I get 2 bites, you get 2 bites, and you get 2 bites. And then next week we're going to do it again.
How much food in there? If there was enough food to feed them for several years, that's insane. That's a lot of food.
That's what I'm saying.
You would think, like, I'll just take a couple of these out. They won't know.
But here's the thing. If it was my food cabin and I was like, hey, you go in there and eat all that food so I have to pick up your dead-ass body, that would have been perfectly fine with me. I wouldn't have gotten pissed off about that. Right? I would rather see someone survive than stink the place up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I feel like someone told them, you can't have that. And if they were handicapped or, in a situation where they didn't do a lot of thinking for themselves, hearing someone tell them that, especially someone they cared about, they'd probably listen. Right? I don't know. Gary Mathias is the Zodiac Killer.
Well, for a second I thought it would make sense if he didn't even make it. Maybe he died, and then there were only 2 guys left in the cabin. The guy who was laid up and the guy who was watching him die. And then it would kind of make sense that one of them would be there.
But it doesn't make
But
sense.
his shoes
that
were
left
there.
The car.
Well, Matthias' shoes were there. That's what I'm saying. Like, it was proven that he swapped out shoes for the ones that were found with wear or whatever.
Well,
so, like,
it was tennis shoes swapped for boots.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Why leave the car in the first place?
I was going to say that. So just as a public service announcement, as a former scout, they find people every winter who die from this exact situation here in the Northwest, and it's always because they leave their car. Don't leave your car. If you get stuck in the snow, they will find you in your car.
Well, here's another thing, too. You can keep a candle in your car, and the heat from a lit candle in your car will keep you alive for days.
Right.
Will it, though?
Yes,
Yeah.
it will.
Yeah, it really will. I mean, it probably won't save all your extremities, but it'll keep you alive.
Depends how big the candle is.
And your extremities.
True. If you have a 3-wick candle, that'll probably keep most of your extremities. I would think. But seriously, why leave a car that's perfectly functioning with enough gas? And they said they found the maps of everything in the glove box.
Yeah.
To me, that just doesn't make sense.
Well, the military experience is like military experience and maps. Why didn't you use them? Or like I thought maybe if they got into this trailer or this Forest Service cabin and it has all this food, maybe they're MREs. In 78, it's 10 years after Vietnam. Maybe there's a bunch of leftover MREs and they didn't know how to use them. But if they're military servicemen, they should have known how to use them.
Well, I mean, let me ask you a question. Can they read?
Well, yeah, it's not that difficult.
Because it tells you how to make the shit on the package.
Sure, but I mean, like I said, diminished mental capacities. If these guys were supposed to be, in that state of mind, then it would be difficult. Then if it's in a plastic bag versus in a can is something I've seen before and makes sense.
Okay, but listen. If you think about it, if you've gone 2 weeks without food, I'm going to eat anything I can catch.
That's true. I'd eat the cabin.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And if you've got food in there, I don't care. It could be the Queen of England's. I'm going to eat her frank beans.
That's
It's
true.
going to happen.
All right, let's talk about this theory real quick.
Those are bangers. I think they're called
Whatever.
bangers.
Let's talk about the red truck, or let's talk about the woman with the...
Is there any way that they... Because there's a couple of the guys who had long hair. Is there any way that the guy who was having a heart attack could have misdiagnosed or misidentified the... One of the
a
guys
man as a woman? But why a baby?
Yeah, white baby. That he specifically said 5 men and a woman with a baby. You can... I think, we can tell.
But he also just could have been straight up hallucinating.
Where do you find
It's
a
true. Do you
woman with a
hallucinate during a heart
baby?
attack, or after you have a heart attack and lay there for hours?
I know of a person that had an extremely traumatic experience where they were severely injured, and he insists that he hurt himself really bad skiing, just like in this lone area, and he insists that this guy came and rescued him and said he was going to go get help, and then eventually several hours later the snow patrol people came and found him, and he's like, yeah, did that guy finally find you? Like, he came and he talked to me. He said he was on his way there. I'm so glad. Tell him thank you. And they're like, no one came and talked to us. So he's pretty sure that he just completely hallucinated this person coming to rescue him.
Touched by an angel.
Well, it's also like the stories of people drowning who are saved, and they're like, someone swam up to me and moved me out of the water.
We need to do an episode on that.
Yeah, I agree. But okay, so who was the woman? The mother figure, Bloody Mary, trying to bring him out of the... Someone said Bloody Mary into the side of the car.
If you're stuck in the middle of the snow, look in your rearview mirror and say Bloody Mary 3 times.
So, but this is one of the theories I want to talk about.
Bam.
So let's just say there is another person. Let's just say there was another car, there was a red truck, there was another group of people, there was people with flashlights. I don't know. Let's say these people were being... What if they were being chased or thought they were being chased?
By who?
That's what I'm trying to say. There were supposedly there was a red truck. Supposedly, let's just say for a second. Let's just say there was. I'm giving you another theory.
Right.
Would you rather I said it was Bigfoot? Yes. I think it was Bigfoot.
Well, because here's the same problem. Why get out of the damn car? If you're being chased by another truck, you're going to be moving faster in your car.
Not if
it's stuck.
It's not stuck.
No, but that's
if
the
you
whole
think
thing.
of this? What if you just get away from that and they go, well, we don't know where this road goes. This road's going to end so much. By the way, I think if they kept driving at that road, it was going to end.
Mm-hmm. This says that the car had become stuck in a snowdrift because there's evidence that the wheels had been spinning in an attempt to get out.
I can tell you, man, it's rear-wheel drive and heavy.
It says that like people, like 5 able-bodied young men,
been
like the ones there, should have been able to.
Yeah, but I also
it.
saw a thing that said that the car was pristine when they found it.
Well, I mean,
no,
you
that's
can
because
still
it was later.
Get stuck.
They came out there.
It still has mud on it, though.
Well, sure, but no, if you're spinning in the snow. If the snow is so deep that you're driving just on snowpack and suddenly hit a bunch of powder, a rear-wheel drive car going up an incline is eventually going to stop moving.
When they say pristine, I don't think they're going to say like it just got deep.
It was like it
order.
says like there was no sign of dents or gouges or mud scrapes. Like it didn't.
It wasn't the Mothman.
It didn't. The car didn't have anything technically wrong with it, I think is what they're saying when they're saying it.
Yeah, there was no real reason to abandon the car. There was no trauma at the car. Nobody found them and like made them flee the car because they were beating the shit out of it or something.
But that's what I'm saying. What if they did? Like I said, this is a theory. What if there was a red car? What if somebody was scaring them? What if they were scared? What if some local redneck was like, hey man, you sure have got pretty lips? And they go, oh my god, and they ran out of the car and then they were hiding. What if they were hiding that whole time?
And who was the woman? Like some type of lure?
I don't
bring
know.
them out?
A siren. I don't know.
Well, hold on. Here's the thing. Let's say that the guy or the people in the truck, a couple guys, a girl out there doing whatever they were doing. Well, I'm not even saying that. Maybe they saw these guys at the gas station and decided, hey, I'm going to follow them, right? And give them some crap because they're out of towners and they look
like they know where they're going.
Well, right. So what they did is they made them go off in opposite direction, like you're saying. Right? Then they all get out of the car and they scramble and then they start freaking out. So this woman's like, oh, I'll go find them. They'll listen to me. And then all this shenanigans happens.
Oh, well, maybe she goes and gets him and she's complicit with these other people in the truck and they all get in the truck and make some call. But what would this call be about?
And where'd they go after the truck? Why didn't the people in the truck just take him into town?
They all ended up at this cabin.
Right, but where'd the truck go between when they saw them or picked them up? And
they got microwave burritos and went back to the cabin, probably to watch some stupid chick flick.
When we were so when I was going to school in
the
Fresno,
lake house.
When I was at Fresno State,
that was bad.
We used to cruise up and down the main street of Blackstone, and me and my friends used to have a really good time, screaming at people, making fun of people, doing whatever. When it rained there, the gutters would flood, and people on the weekends cruised the main strip, Blackstone. They'd cruise it. So we just thought it'd be fun in my friend's truck to drive in the gutter, splash a bunch of people, and then take off. These 2 guys jump in their big-ass truck and start chasing us. We went through a lot of subdivisions, tons. Mm-hmm. Couldn't lose these guys. We would first of all, they said, pull over so we can kick your ass. That's probably not we didn't. That seemed like a great idea at the time.
What you should have done is like slow down and then let them get out and then you just drive away.
Well, so what we did, though,
reverse.
Yeah.
Every time we couldn't ditch these guys. They would find us. We turned into a little suburban street, and we turn the lights off. They'd find us. Finally, he parked in someone's garage, in their driveway, and we ran out of the car. We sprinted out of the car and hid on the side of the garage, and the car just finally passed. That was the mentality. There's the only way we're going to lose these people is to get out of our car. That could have been the same mentality that these guys had. The only way we're going to lose these guys, in a panic, you don't have time. The car gets stuck. Oh my God, we're being chased by these people. Run. Everybody run. We can't go back to the car. I felt that way. If we go back to his car, they're going to find the car and kick our ass. These guys, and listen, I wasn't the smartest kid.
But that makes sense when you say it like that. That makes perfect sense.
No, that's what I did when I was a juvenile and there was cops involved. Never mind.
You ran in many different directions.
The car stopped moving.
I thought right now this whole thing was a sting, and then two cops come in and were like, "We got you, John."
No, I think the statute of limitations.
We've been waiting 11 episodes for this.
I'm glad you made it through the terrible jokes of last episode and maintained it. But
It's better than having Chris Hansen walk in.
yeah,
Ooh.
Are you Clown Boy 69? You're like, no. Yeah.
Catch a predator.
All right. Well,
And make puppets.
I think that the number one thing is
That's Jim Hansen.
I don't think we have it. I don't know. There's so many different theories on this, but there's no great. I think there's more good answers for Dyatlov Pass. How do you say it again, Tanya?
Dyatlov.
One more time.
Say it again one more time.
Dyatlov.
I
Nice.
didn't hear you. What?
I still think it's the Howling Mountain or aliens.
That could be too, or it could be the Israelis troopers finding or the army finding or the Indian army in the Yeti.
Finding the Yeti, yeah.
It could be that. I don't know. The Dyatlov Pass has a lot better. I don't know. I don't want to say conspiracy, but at least ideas.
There's more mystique about that
No,
one.
no, it's just more like people like there's stuff that makes sense. Oh, I get that. Okay, yeah, the cabin catches on fire, or their tip catches on fire. They cut out of it. They run in a panic.
That's
They
true.
get lost, and they die. This one, it just doesn't make sense.
That's true. We all had theories for why they left the tent down.
We don't have theories.
We don't even have theories for this. Not at all. It doesn't make sense.
Well, what did the local police department say? I mean, how long did they look?
They said that it was the most confounding thing, that it made no damn sense when they...
Well, did they find...
They looked as long as they could look before the weather got really bad. When the weather got good, the bikers found them, so they didn't really have to start looking again. I don't know that part of it. I just know that...
So they didn't look for like different types of tire tracks, or...
I mean,
The theory on here says that the police there think that the two guys died on the way there. The three made it to the trailer when Weir died. Then they think the other two decided to just go try to find their way back.
Back to what?
Civilization, help,
to good.
anything.
Back to anywhere?
Yeah. But, I mean, just not knowing where they weren't sure where to go. So they think the three made it there, made it as long as they could after the one guy died, and then tried to find their way back to civilization. So they stayed there as long as they could, hoping someone was going to come, and no one had.
But where's the guy who's missing? Where's the missing guy? The guy who should have been able to...
Okay, here's an idea.
To get him out
Hold
with
on.
the maps, the guy who knew the hell where he was going.
He had schizophrenia, right?
Yeah.
So could he have been...
Two different people?
Well, yeah. Maybe he was so far gone when someone found him that he's like in a mental institution somewhere.
Yeah, but you'd still recognize
But they
him.
would've-
It's
yeah.
Not
1978, man.
Not necessarily. If he looked completely different and he showed up, he'd lost 40 pounds, he had grown a beard. You know,
You can still do that. You know how long the FBI looked for D.B. Cooper, and they saw him for 5 minutes in composite sketches, and they like aged. They did all sorts of shit.
right, but
And
what
that
I'm
was
trying to
before
tell you
this.
too is we still find Jane Does and
Oh yeah, all
John
the
Does
time.
all the time.
We can't identify in 2019. I get that. I get that too.
one other theory is, I think, this is, and I don't know, they were hiding. Because what if they did something to Mathis? What if Mathis died accidentally, and they thought that they were going to get charged for it or something? Maybe he accidentally died, and they panicked and they were hiding. That's another thought I had. Like if they went there and they were,
But where'd
hiding.
they put his body?
They could have buried it. They could have...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Was there? Yeah, but I guess that makes it. Was there any other proof other than like maybe his shoes that he was ever present?
Mathis?
Yeah, once they got stuck, because maybe they left him at the game. Maybe
There's no proof. They can't, other than what's his face? The first guy.
Whose car was it again?
Madruga's.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the guys on the side of the road, right?
Yeah, when the first guy, when the they were the only one that he's the only one they know for sure was actually physically in the cabin because they saw him there. I don't think
found his body. Yeah,
they found his body. There was no one else that they could prove was actually there, but they do know people were there because his body was touched.
And here's another thing too: we're also under the assumption that his boots were taken before.
Yeah.
What if he changed shoes beforehand?
Well, I know his feet were completely frostbitten.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Like, if he had shoes on, why would he take them off to begin with?
Maybe they got wet or something.
Laying
Maybe
in bed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, if somebody you are going out with this special, and you're supposed to be looking after these people, and one of them gets their feet wet and wants to change their feet, and it's really bothering them. Like, I have autistic cousins and stuff. You're going to change shoes with them to get them to not have it bothering them anymore. Maybe that's a possibility. Man, but like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if that Matthias guy was never there, and he was the oldest, and he was the most responsible, and something happened to him potentially, then the other 4 guys being out there on their own without as much leadership, that kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like, they just wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple different things. Clearly, they could have been hiding from someone that they were scared of. They could have been hiding from the law because they thought they did something wrong.
Right.
They could have been there. I think that they were there because they were scared.
More than one of them can drive, right? Because somebody owns a car, and somebody else was driving. Yeah. So there was more than one driver.
Madruga, that was his car.
Could have done that.
He was very proud of his car, by the way.
But you think?
I think 2 of them had their driver's license. He was the only one that actually had a car, though.
You think you'd know it would still be able to go and stuff, though, right?
And they were all excited to go back. They were so excited about the game.
Okay. My theory.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts by Ryan.
Zodiac Killer.
Oh, that's it.
Well, here's the thing. Zodiac Killer was never identified. He was in Northern California between 1960 and 1970 something. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He looks just like the guy.
He really does. Look.
Well, you're saying, okay, but also there's been a lot of people that question that whole sketch drawing.
Of the Zodiac Killer?
So let me just look at Gary Mathis.
Matthias.
Matthias?
I think it's Matthias.
And I'm going to say Zodiac.
I'm telling you, it makes perfect sense. Here's the thing. He killed a bunch of people. Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, nobody has this idea. You could be the first one to come up with this idea.
No, seriously. We could be big.
He killed a bunch of people, right? Then he's like, I need to maintain a new identity or be himself because they don't know who that Zodiac Killer is. He hung out with these 5 guys. He's like, you know what? I think these guys are going to be easy pickings. He goes out there with them, convinces them that there's something going on, allows all of them to die, and then he either A, tries to get off the mountain and dies himself, or he's so far gone because he hasn't been taking his meds and maybe he's injured that he just goes someplace and dies on his own. No one ever figured out who he was.
I'd have to look more into the ammo of the Zodiac Killer, but it could possibly fit. It makes somewhat sense. I mean, I think he was a little more violent, though, wasn't he? The Zodiac Killer was.
Well, he shot people, right?
And stabbed.
Yeah, and stabbed. People who were like, I mean, it's just very strange coincidence for them to look that closely alike in the same time period, in the same location, and for him. Think about it. Gary Matthias was never found. The Zodiac Killer was never identified.
Well, you have to find out if the timelines fit, because he was in the military for a little while. Gary Mathis, you have to find out when. And of course, the Zodiac Killer would shut down for a while.
Yeah,
he wouldn't kill for a little while. So I don't know. But then again, when did the Zodiac Killer start killing?
1960 to 1970 were his time frames. But like you said, he stopped. Maybe at 1970, when he killed the last person, he was going through some sort of schizophrenic episode and went into the hospital and had maintained a certain amount of...
Or if he was part of the military during the Zodiac killings, they would have treated him for schizophrenia once they found it.
Yeah.
But that would have made him... So, he was 25 when he disappeared. Gary Mathis was 25 when he disappeared in 1978. So he wasn't... He was born in... Let's see... I don't know. He was in February 24th of 1978. He was 25.
I wonder how long.
That kills your whole theory. He would have been killing people as a little kid.
He was born in 52
Who was?
October. With
Yeah,
ice.
no, that would have been. So he would have been 16.
In 1960, the
No,
Zodiac
1978. No, 50. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Killer. So the Zodiac Killer. Let's look this up, bro. The first Zodiac Killer. His first killing
Was in
1960s and 70s.
1968.
Well, was it?
Yes, the first murders attributed to the Zodiac Killer were the shootings of high school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday
So
on
that
December
would have
20th,
made him
1968.
That would have made
Oh.
him 15.
He was
Yeah,
a 15-year-old kid.
high school age.
Yeah, but they said he was
So
a-
yeah, if you stick with the whole same age thing,
Which is very common among serial killers.
wow, that's kind of
Well, that's
interesting.
weird that you know that.
I bet
Yeah.
we're
I
the
have a
only
degree in
podcast to come up with
abnormal
that as a
psychology.
theory for this, right? How many times has this been? Because didn't you say there were like 3,000 different podcasts about the Dyatlov Pass?
There were a lot. There were many, many, many.
I wonder how many.
Because here's the thing: the Zodiac Killer wore a mask, right? But so they could never tell how old he was, right?
Right.
If you're schizophrenic, it doesn't mean you're not intelligent, right? He could be highly intelligent.
You're just super anxious.
Then he went into the military, right? Learned very set skills, right? Being in the military, even though he was discharged,
Right.
right? Those could have been corresponding time frames where he wasn't active, right?
Right. And where he was normal and he wasn't suffering from schizophrenic episodes, and then he had them in the military, and they treated him and discharged him while he was young.
Yeah, and then he came out and was having a hard time. Got settled down with these 5 guys who were also having a hard time.
That makes sense.
All right, let's do some research to talk about this.
Okay.
We'll see if his timelines work. We'll find out everything about Gary Mathias that we can. I can't. I don't know.
Let me ask you this: how old was Gary Mathias when all
Gary, if you care for
He was
mispronouncing your
25
name,
when he
call
went
us.
missing.
Call us and let us
what
know.
year?
78.
That was 78.
Okay, so that would be about the same.
Yeah,
He would have
15.
been 15.
Yeah, which is the age of those kids that died
Yeah,
in high school.
I don't know. You could solve a crime right here. Our podcast would be pretty famous.
Cold case.
let's do it.
If we thought.
Yep, let's figure it
Eat,
out.
Okay,
drinking,
cool.
cold case.
All right, well, with that, I think we're going to call it. This is. I don't think we came to any sort of conclusions or anything other than.
Is there really a conclusion to come from? I don't even have a conclusion as to why they left the goddamn car.
Zodiac Killer.
Like, yeah, right. Hey, guess what I
I think
did?
it's Bigfoot. I'm going to say
Maybe
Bigfoot.
Someone had really bad gas, which was why the window was down, and they all fled.
They had the chili at the
I think
basketball
everybody's
game.
been in a car
Or the burrito.
that they wanted to get out of.
or maybe they saw his mask and he was like, "Oh,
Oh, yeah, guess what, guys? By the way.
I'm the serial killer.
Yeah.
Let's go have a burrito."
Up this hill. All right. So that was a good show. I think it was very educational. It was really nice. It was fun.
I'm going to be looking at this for the next 12 hours.
He's not going to sleep tonight.
I can't wait for all the texts. We have a group text that we talk about all this stuff, and I can't wait for all the texts.
Right. If you want to think about the sexy things that keeps Ryan up at night, it's serial killers.
True.
All right. So anyway, thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe. We're on Spotify and Stitcher and iTunes and all sorts of stuff like that.
And let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten some feedback, and it's fun. And we'll respond. Mostly.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
Find us on we're on Facebook, and we have a look up Eat, Drink, and Be-Scary.com.
Yeah, Ghostumentary.
Ghostumentary on Instagram. Watch
Alter
Ghostumentary.
Egos on Facebook and Instagram.
That's
Mhm.
right. Find that on there. You guys want to pitch in?
Assertively tell your friends.
Yeah. Tom's part of a car club.
I am. Yeah. But
He's the vice president.
right.
Tanya's an amazing artist. We're going to start showing some of her art on here.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And eventually I'll be having an art show at Ryan's shop, Alter Egos.
Yep, that's the plan.
And I'll be there not wearing pants.
That's also the plan.
Oh, my God.
You guys
That's
said that.
That's why they left the car. Somebody was like, I'm taking my pants off.
Actually,
hot in here.
Although I got to say that now that you've said the whole fart in the car thing, 5 guys in a car. Come on, tell me somebody did not just hotbox that car.
Well, they would just laugh unless they had
No.
a gas station burrito.
And they did.
Exactly.
Yeah, they
That's
could have.
exactly why I said that.
And be like, we're getting out. Like, listen. But hey, you don't have your shoes on. I don't care. I'm going to run up this hill.
Why
because
else
you're
would you
fart.
roll down the window in the dead of winter?
Yeah.
It's 1978,
Hold
man.
on.
Disco sucks.
Unless they were talking to somebody. Let's say that someone came up to that side of the car.
And then he turned his butt cheeks in and went,
Or, yeah. Yep. Some random person walked up to them. They rolled down the window and they farted in the car.
It was the woman and the baby. She's like, you would not believe what this baby just did. Oh my god!
The baby. It's the baby, not me. All right. Well,
and you think my Zodiac killer theory is wrong,
and you thought the really bad jokes we told last week.
Dude, you're a father. I don't know, between a potential serial killer and a really bad baby diaper, I know what would make me.
Let me tell you what I did to my kids today. So I had them stand next to the door. Hold on. I had them stand next to the door, and I said, "Put your hands behind your back." And I put a card, like a playing card, on the door. And I said, "I want you to try to catch this with your head as I drop it." I said, "I counted to 3. 1, 2, 3," and I dropped the card. And they slammed their head against the door. Ian caught the card first time, super happy about it. Colden, 12 times.
How old's Colin?
He's 9.
See, Ian's 6, remember?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I love both of my kids. They're great. Ian has been tested for advanced higher learning stuff at school. And Colden thinks his toothbrush is haunted.
It might be. How old is it? That's traumatic stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's very funny. But yeah, and I just sat there and watched it the whole time. And I'm like, this is fantastic. He got it. 12 times. He was super happy about it.
You know, if you don't take care of your teeth, that will come back to haunt you.
Oh, God.
You know, we haven't done any ghost stuff yet. We got to do some ghost stuff.
We need to get out there and investigate. It's summertime.
We'll save it for the next
We should do
show.
this from a haunted, something that's supposedly haunted, and do the podcast from that.
Yeah, call us if you have something haunted and local. We'll go and
especially a restaurant
podcast from it.
Oh yeah,
because they won't eat, drink, and be scary.
with maybe a bar.
That's true.
Yeah.
Which we did in Ghost Documentary. Watch Ghost Documentary, Amazon Prime. We went to a restaurant in San Francisco that was supposedly haunted and ate there.
And then Ghost Documentary 2 is coming out soon, too.
Mm-hmm. It'll be haunted.
Cool. All right, well, that, hey, thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll talk to you next week.
Have a good
Bye.
night. Bye.
Bye.